Hey everybody, it's Dana and welcome back to the blog. Today we are going to be playing with the Hero Arts Tiling Texture Stamp Set. This stamp set allows you to do repeating patterns on your card fronts, and I'm going to show you how to use that today. We're also going to be using the Gold Hero Wax, which is absolutely fabulous to work with, and we'll also use a couple more products from Hero Arts. But let's go ahead and get started. So I have a piece of Dove white cardstock, and I've already trimmed this down. I do want to have a little bit of area covered with the Hero Wax. So in order to have a straight line on this, I'm just going to grab my purple tape. I'm going to spin my card panel around so it meets up with my grid lines. And this way I know I'm going to really get that crisp line that I'm looking for. Now I'm also going to grab the tile that I'm going to use to make my repeating pattern. And I just need to see how wide it is. So when I put down the tape, I want the area of that gold wax to be the width or approximately the width of that tile I'm working with. So once I have that figured out, I can line up that purple tape, and I know that that little tile I'm going to be using is going to fit within that area of that Hero Wax. All right, now since I have that lined up perfectly, we can go ahead and start working with the Hero Wax. Now, once I get this open, I do want to use a palette knife with this, but look how gorgeous that is. So Hero Arts now has a beautiful palette knife, and I'm going to go ahead and take some of this and smooth it out on the left side of that purple tape. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to try to get an even layer here. Now this wax to me really feels almost like a nice icing. It's like really nice and smooth, and it gives you great coverage. Now the more you add, the longer it may take to dry. So as you can see, I'm really trying to do more of a skim coat, and I'm going back and forth, taking some of that wax off, adding some more to the bottom, and smoothing that out. Using this palette knife, it really does allow me to smooth this on like icing. But if you wanted to, you could totally use your fingers. You're just gonna kind of get a little bit of a different texture when you're done. So I keep going up and down the panel until I get the smoothness that I want. I also make sure to take any excess of that wax and put it back into the jar. We don't have to waste this stuff, you guys. So if you're using it and you feel like you went a little bit heavy-handed with it, just go ahead and wipe it right back into your container. So I'm going to get right down here to the bottom. Again, just trying to get this as smooth as I can. And once I have it to where the thickness that I want, I'm going to clean off my lid before I put back on my top. This is going to help allow this to not get like messy when I need to use it later. Now I can go ahead and set this aside. And I'm also going to make sure to clean off that palette knife so that Hero Wax does not dry on it. If you take good care of your tools will take good care of you when you're crafting. So make sure to clean them after you use them. All right, while that other piece is drying, I'm going to use the Beelieve stamp set, which is absolutely one of my favorites. And I'm going to grab one of the bees, and I also want to grab a sentiment. So I want a sentiment that I know is going to fit on the card panel. So what I'm going to do is use this You're Beautiful, but I do want to make sure that it's going to fit on the right side of that gold. And that looks like it's going to fit perfectly. All right, so I went ahead and placed that aside, and I need to start doing my bees. Now I would tell you this, when I am doing card making, and if I'm going to stamp out an image, a good tip is just to stamp out a few. Stamp out more than you need. This way you can already have them stamped and possibly die cut before you need them for another project. It just keeps you from having to continuously stamp something out over and over again. So I know for my card today, I did want to have a couple of these bees. I wasn't quite sure how many bees I wanted, but I know I wanted to have probably more than one bee. So I went ahead and stamped this twice because I want this to be nice and dark. And I will go ahead and shift my paper over, and stamp out a couple more bees. Again, if I don't use them all, it's fine. I can go ahead and use them later on a different project. Now, once I have all of my bees done, I'm going to flip my card base over, or my panel over, and do one more at the bottom. I kind of like to have odd numbers of objects on my card. To me, it kind of like keeps your eye moving. So for today's card, I'm going to use 3 bees. Once I have that done, I can go ahead and take that out of the MISTI, and now we can start coloring. Now my color medium today is going to be Copic markers. Since this is like a really black and white image, I really just need to pull a couple of yellows. I want to use a couple of yellows that are going to blend perfectly together. That's going to give me a light, a dark, and maybe a medium. So the colors I'm using today are Y18, Y35, and Y38. Once I started to put down the Y35, I felt maybe I needed something a little bit more darker just to give me a little bit more shading on this. But again, if you wanted to just keep this really simplistic and just do one color, that would absolutely be fine. I just wanted to add a tad bit of shading, and I know that these 3 colors work well together. So I went ahead and I colored up all of the bees the same exact way using those same 3 Copic markers. Now, once I had the yellow parts done, I didn't want the white wings part just to be like white. So I went ahead and grabbed out my B10, which is like a greeny kind of blue. It's just going to give me a little bit of a tint on their wings, instead of just keeping them white. Now you could also do this in a pretty gray as well if you did like a W0 or a C0, that would work just as well. But I just wanted a little bit of hint of blue. Now it was time to die cut. I have my new little snippers here from Hero Arts, and I absolutely love them. As you can see, they cut super, super well. So I'm just going to trim these, or cut these apart, so I can just die cut that one bee. Now within the stamp set, there's 2 bees and I think 2 flowers. So there's going to be 4 dies that you can buy with the Beelieve stamp set. So this way you don't have to worry about doing all that fussy cutting. Fussy cutting to me can drive me insane. I mean, I still do it, but I really just prefer to have my matching die cuts. Once I have that lined up, I am going to grab a small piece of purple tape just to hold the die cut in place. Now, once I have this done, I'm going to run this through the new Hero Arts compact cutter. This little cutter is a staple on my desk now because I know I can trim down this paper and I don't have to get up and walk across the room to use my big die cutting machine. This sits right on the corner of my desk. It's super, super handy. And it comes with a plate and 2 B plates. And I always cut into the B plates. I can go ahead and run that through. And I'm going to have the start of these cute little bees that are going to go on my card. Now, once I'm done, I can pop out that adorable little bee. And then I'm going to go ahead and start working on the other ones. Same exact process. I'm just running it through the compact cutter and getting them all ready for my card. Now that my panel is dry, I'm going to very gently pull back that purple tape on itself, not to rip my card. And look how gorgeous and what a great clean line I now have to do a little bit of that tiling work. And it's a nice soft panel to work on. Now this is totally dry. I will have to tell you, if it is not dry, I will suggest that you very quickly heat it with a heat gun, because you don't want to start stamping on this and then you realize it's not dried all the way. So I went ahead and grabbed my little heat tool and I have it on low and I'm just lightly blowing over it just to make sure everything's dry before I start my tile work. So once I know that it's completely dry, I can go ahead and take that tile. Now this tile looks like honeycombs. So that's why I chose to pick the bees, because it looks like little honeycombs. I will go ahead and place that at the very top of that card panel. Now there's a reason why I started it at the top of the panel, because this is going to allow me to move my paper up through my MISTI and line up everything. So I put it right there in the bottom right hand corner, and then I'm going to start stamping out my tile texture using the Hero Arts Intens-ified black ink. So go ahead and swing down my MISTI lid, and look how gorgeous this looks on this Hero wax. It's absolutely so pretty. So I'm going to get that little bit of shimmer from the wax, and I'm going to get this great design on top. So I gently pull that up because I don't want to pull any of the paste, and I love how it looks, but I am going to stamp that one more time because I do want to have some crisp lines on this. So I can go ahead and close over that MISTI lid one more time, go ahead and press down, and now I can start continuing this pattern all the way up the card. So what I'm going to do is shift my paper up just enough that I know I can add the next tile in. I added the next tile, I shifted my paper up, I'm adding in my third row now, and you can see how this design is starting to grow. So I go ahead and press that down, lift that up. And again, all I'm doing is moving that paper up. So one more time, I'm going to move my paper up and I'm going to shift it so I know when I overlay that next row, it's going to line up evenly at the bottom. So all you have to do is kind of like pull it up until you see where your lines will meet. Sorry so much for my big head getting in the way, but I'm just trying to make sure everything is lined up. So as you can see, my honeycombs are going to line up, and that's exactly what I did to create this pattern down the side of this gold wax. Now I can go ahead and press that last one in place, and look at there. Everything is lined up. All you have to do is shift up until your lines join. Super, super easy to use this tiling texture. I did want to trim down my card panel because I knew I wanted to put this on a black backer in order to kind of bring some of that black to the base part of my card. So once I trimmed this down, now it was time to go ahead and figure out where I wanted my bees. So I know I want the bees to be somewhat on the gold part and then somewhat on the white part. And I didn't want them facing all the same direction, maybe one facing down, one facing up, and maybe one just facing straight across the card. Now, since I have the way I want my bees to lay, I can go ahead and start working on my sentiment. So I'm going to leave the bees in place while I do my sentiment. In this way, I know I can line up my sentiment exactly where I want it, right between the bees. So I think since I have 3 bees, I'm actually going to put it right beside the second bee that's going to sit on my card. And again, I'm going to stamp this in the Intens-ified black ink, again, pulling some of that black over to the other side of the card panel. I can go ahead and remove my bees because I no longer need them for a placeholder. And I can go ahead and stamp out this sentiment. And I think what will also be beautiful is if you went ahead and did a whole panel worth of tile work and then did a little bit of ink blending over it. I think that would be beautiful as well. Okay, once I have that stamped and I have a nice dark crisp image, I am now ready to go ahead and start putting this card together. Now for my bees, I did want my bees to kind of pop up a little bit. So I am going to grab some foam squares just to give my bees a little bit of lift off of my card panel. Now if you wanted to, you can glue them directly down, or if you wanted to, you can die cut the bee a few more times just out of white paper in order to give it some height. Today I had my square little foam dots ready, so I just went ahead and used those instead. Now the bees that I do have on the panel, they are not adhered all the way down. They're just sitting there placed. So this way I still have an opportunity to move them around. So this is a good tip. If you're putting something on a card, don't push it down right away. Give yourself the opportunity that if you wanted to kind of move them around before you push down your glue dots or your glue foam squares, make sure you do that first. All right, now it was time to back this in black. So since I had already trimmed down this card panel, I do have a piece of pitch black cardstock, and this is from Hero Art. And this is going to be a full-size panel, so it is going to cover the whole size of an A2 card. I went ahead and added a little bit of my glue here, and I'm kind of getting right to the bottom of that glue. And I can go ahead and place this down on my panel. Now look how pretty that is when I bring in just a touch of that black as a backer to this beautiful piece here. It really makes this card look a little bit elegant. I have that gold on there, and then I have just the 3 color tones here. I just have the gold, the white, and the black. Sometimes not adding a lot of color to a card and making it just very simplistic can give you stunning results. All right, once I have that done, I am going to put this onto a top folding card from Hero Art. Now let me give you a little bit of a tip. I had cut down my black piece of paper and I'm a little bit off on my sizing here. So I'm going to show you what I do. So anytime my card panel just does not fit correctly, what you need to do is make sure that the piece you're putting on to the card base lines up with the side and the top. So as you can see, I'm making sure that black is lining up with the top fold and also lining up with the left side of my card panel. So you see, I'll go ahead and tap it down just to make sure I have those areas lined up. So my top and my left are fine. Now all I have to do is come in and trim off any of the white I don't need. This is just a really great tip because I know sometimes when I'm cutting cardstock, sometimes I might be a little bit off than my card panel. So I just take my scissors and I make sure I have like real long scissors, and then I can go ahead and trim those pieces down. Super, super easy to kind of clean up that side. All right, I did want to add one more part of gold to this. So I'm using the gold Hero Pearls, and I'm just going to add just a few of these to pull some of that gold now over to that white part of the panel. So these, when they dry back perfect and rounded, and that's what I love about these Hero Pearls. I'm going to do 2, and then again, remember I said I like odd numbers, so I'm going to do 3 below. And there we have it, you guys. That is the video today. I can't believe how cute this card is. All right, everybody, thank you so much for stopping by today, and I will see you again in another video soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.